Hi friends, welcome back. So we're talking about China today. I want to give you an update of what's going on with them. We got some big news, and let's just jump right in. So headline: China loosens grip on yuan with weakest fixing since November, and essentially we're having a weaker China's yuan and also two other Asian currencies. More headlines here. Asia Pacific markets are mostly lower as China keeps benchmark lending rates steady. And to give you guys a sense of what it is right now, for those of you who follow the yuan, you probably know this already. This is a big news usually whenever times there's some sort of currency move. So it's at 7.2 to the dollar. Here in Korea, the currency is the dollar is 1,382 won. And I mentioned this because I live in Korea, but I also used to live in China. I also used to live in Japan as well, so I'm familiar with all of the different currencies around here. So for us here in Korea, when this hits like 1,400, that's kind of a very high mark, and we'll see if it goes higher than that. And the Chinese currency moves less than other Asian currencies, but again, it has a major effect because obviously, as you know, it's the second largest economy. So why should we care about these kind of things and sort of what's happening in China? That's what I want to go over with you guys. So first, we've talked about several times that there is a property meltdown over there. There's a really interesting chart here that sort of shows how much unsold property there is. You can see here. So this looks like it could be about, was this 2015, 16, kind of in that range. We're above that now. And they're saying here, a stock of unsold properties in China reached record high in February. So what does that mean? That means they got all of these buildings that they can't sell. They over, build essentially. And essentially, before everyone was saying, hey, real estate only goes up and therefore I should buy more of it. I should speculate on future constructions, etc. But what happens if there's no buyers there or no money there? And that's essentially what we got here. So China's actually in real big trouble because a lot of people have their money in real estate. Moreover, you can see this here. This is China's property sales have fallen further this year. So this is the top 100 developers. And basically, let's see, where are we? We're at like negative 40, almost 50% year on year change, right? So not good. And this actually comes over, there was massive growth, say, for some years, but then they got a couple dips. And essentially what's going on here is that you're just having a property meltdown. No one has any money. And moreover, remember, people's money are tied up in this stuff. Here's another one. Home prices across China are falling at the fastest pace in 9 years. Again, this is not good. So this is over 70 cities. And just think about this, guys. Let's say you got a loan on a place, right? So we'll make it simple. Let's say it was $1 million, just round number. And the housing prices are going down. So let's say like you can only sell your home for $700,000, right? So you're out $300,000. Like this is the kind of situation that you have. Now, moreover, just imagine that say you took out a mortgage for $1 million, and maybe you can sell it for $700,000, but your property's not finished. So you're underwater, you have an unfinished property, and no buyers. This is the kind of situation that you're facing in China. This is how dire it is. And again, people's money is tied up in this stuff. And the question that China is facing is like, okay, how can we get people to lend more money to get this system going again? And one of the things, and I laugh, I mean, it's not that funny to them, of course, but one of the things I've been thinking about is how is China going to go to, like a U.S. type of monetary system where, everything's based on credit? You guys know this. I mean, it's for the average American, doesn't get a house without a loan, doesn't get a car without a loan, etc. Doesn't go to school without a loan. All these things. This is sort of allowed us to have a modern lifestyle. And I'm not saying necessarily bad. I'm just saying this is just that our system is how it's built. A lot of it is based on managing debt. Now, one thing that I think is really interesting, and I just kind of want to tie this all together so you guys can follow what's going on in China. They've been selling off U.S. debt, and my opinion on this thing is I think they just want to focus on what's going on back home, or I should say, back in China. And this is actually really interesting because I want to point this out also. Essentially what they're trying to do, and actually Japan is trying to do a very similar thing, is convince local businesses, convince local people to buy local debt, meaning convince Japanese people to buy Japanese debt, mean bonds, or also convince Japanese people to say buy Japanese equities, say stocks. Same way, say China is the government trying to convince Chinese people to buy, say, equity and bonds. You know what I'm saying? So they're trying to sort of strengthen their home market. So you sell off U.S. debt and figure out ways to bolster home. Now, one of the things that you have to understand, and this is sort of a complicated topic, is what is FDIC insurance in other countries? And so I'm bringing this up because why don't people trust the banks in China? Why do people throw all their money into real estate? We have the similar situation here in Korea. And I want to show you guys this. This is something that actually we talk about in USA, and I know some people in the USA don't trust the banks at all there. I really know. This says here, United States, North America. So FDIC insurance, that's right. So your bank insurance basically covering your deposits is $250,000 in USA, right? So Australia is $250. Norway's 200. I can't verify all of these numbers. This is just taken from a website that I pulled up quickly. It's a China policy. But I from best that I can tell, these numbers are good. When you guys look at this list, if you're in any of these countries, please let me know if any of these numbers are off. But like I said, I'll just assume that they're good. Now here's the numbers that stick out, right? So remember, USA is 250, right? So the insurance in China, it's actually 75,000. So it's much lower than the USA. And then in South Korea, where I live now, it's actually 40,000, and it's actually really quite low. And you're probably thinking, okay, so why is it the way that it is? I mean, it's a long discussion, but let me put it to you this way. So one of the issues, and I actually made a video about this with my wife and I on our other channel called Chris and Yeji. You can watch this, but we made a video just 11 hours ago talking about banking in Korea. And I was thinking about this recently, looking at the articles about what's coming out of China is essentially if you can't trust insurance in your bank, right? Like you put a bunch of cash in there, your bank folds, and like people like literally just run away with your money. You feel much safer if you just put it in real estate and you own said property. And then the issue becomes, and this is something that's really interesting, is because people don't trust banks, they end up just buying more property. Like you gotta find ways to store your wealth. And then then you get another sort of situation to where like because people just store the wealth in properties, you may have unused properties, right? Empty properties. So that might be a possibility. You might have essentially a whole bunch of people that have been buying up properties for years and years and years and years and years, and then they're just basically a landlord class. And then you have a bunch of people who would like to buy, but they can't because no one's selling, right? Because you have this landlord class, because who are they going to sell it to? Moreover, and it goes back to the declining property situation, right? So some people, they're like, well, I bought it for X amount of dollars. I can't see selling it for less than that. Or I've seen property prices go up, say double in the last 5 years, or whatever it's gone up. I expect that again. And this is sort of like it's a cultural thing, right? It's both you could say political, meaning like what do you set the banking rates at, or I should say banking insurance rates at, right? What levels? And also too, this is another really interesting thing is, so for example, I'll use the Korean example. I can't speak to taxes in China, but I can speak to taxes in Korea. The landlord class, actually, they care a great deal about property taxes. So meaning like on your second, third, fourth home, this kind of stuff, they want to keep taxes low, of course, right? And this is something that, me and my personal opinion on this stuff is that, when you get to, let's say past your third or fourth home, et cetera, that you should have some sort of a wealth tax. Because if you don't, it says essentially just creates too much incentive for people to, again, hoard real estate, and sort of locks out other people from the market. And especially for you young people, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. And it's also interesting as well, and you're probably wondering like what other ramifications does this insurance thing have? So in USA, and I tell you guys this all the time, have more than one bank, have more than one brokerage, but it's also the same, even more so in Asia. If your bank only insures, 40K, so for example, in Korea, was it 40K in cash, or, that's dollars, or in China, 75K, and let's say you got $1 million, you better be getting yourself, like 10 banks basically. And that's for real. And so then you have like a crazy amount of banks, and some of these banks being more shady than others. Because of this banking system, some banks may be offering crazy good incentives that are unsustainable, right? Because there's all this competition, et cetera. So there's all sorts of number of things that happen with this stuff. And then moreover, you have like a shadow banking system, which is based on real estate. It's a really complicated system. I encourage you guys to watch the other video. But I just wanted to sort of point out sort of why this is so important and sort of why it's in place. Now, why else would China also too want to essentially keep their currency down? Well, it's one way is to stimulate their economy. So like, for example, read this. China's factory output disappoints, right? So their factory is not producing that much stuff. Property sector stuck in the doldrums. And this is a chart here. This is article just came out June 17th, so just recently. Industrial production year over year 5.6%, and then retail sales 3.7%. So one of the things that you want to do if you're China, you're like, okay, crap, our property sector is in trouble. We have all these properties that need to be finished. We need to encourage lending if possible. Well, one of the ways you encourage lending is to make sure people have jobs to pay back said loans, right? And if you are having trouble with your property, you want to encourage exports, meaning that you want to make goods in China. So for example, you want to make a bunch of BYD cars or Huawei phones or whatever and ship them around the world. One thing you can do is if you have a weaker currency, it'll make it cheaper for foreigners to come and buy your stuff. So a simple example, if I'm China, I sell my BYDs to the say USA, because remember the dollar is strong, and so that'll make the BYD cheaper. Now in reverse, if the Chinese yuan is weak, or say here in Korea our won is weak, it's more expensive for us to buy American goods, be your iPhones, etc. Right? So this is sort of the stuff that I talk about. If you guys are watching my Tesla videos, making fun of the Tesla bulls, because they always are super bullish on China, but they never even really mention anything about the economy or anything like that. Because you're facing some major issues, right? So people are worried about their housing situation, which I just went over. People are worried about their future, and also too they have nowhere else to store their money, and they're clearly not going to go buy a new Tesla or get a robotaxi thing. That's complete nonsense. But they are concerned about their jobs, of course, and also too you have the situation with youth unemployment, which has been a big problem, and in fact the government even quit reporting numbers on that, so we don't even know. And all these numbers I show you today, because everyone always asks the same question over and over again. They'll say, Chris, are the China numbers good, right? These charts I show you, that means all coming from the government. Is it good numbers? I mean, all I can say is it's the numbers they give us. So you guys can take that as you will. But I'll just say I don't think the numbers, how can I say, would be better than what they show us, right? Like for example, let me go back to like something like this. So if the numbers were better than this, they would brag about it. But if they're worse, they're definitely not going to tell us, right? Because it already looks bad, meaning that there's a bunch of unsold properties. So that it may be worse. I can't tell you how big it is, but it is something to keep an eye on. Moreover, it was interesting reading about this. Is another headline: Xi's mystery PBOC, so that's the People's Bank of China plans take shape with biggest shift in years. And there was this paragraph that really caught my attention. It sort of I bring up the maybe China wants to be like the U.S. system. So I'll read it to you guys. It says, to be sure, these moves aim to refine the technical tools that the People's Bank of China uses to manage its interest rates and money. They won't necessarily help answer some of the big questions that confront China's policymakers right now. So here's a couple of the questions, like whether credit, right, this is what we're talking about, just like USA, whether credit can prop up the economy when households and companies aren't eager to take on more debt, or how to ease borrowing costs without weakening yuan. It is a really tricky problem that they face right now, and that's sort of what's going on in China. So I just want to give you an update on that because we're all connected, guys. No matter what company that you're at, or what company that you are tracking via stocks, they usually do some sort of business in China because again, it's the second largest economy in the world. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. Shared mine, and catch you all in the next video.